Hi, bonjour.
Hi. Bonjour.
Bonjour, bonjour. Stephane, wonderful to meet you. I'm Claire.
Nice to meet you.
Listen, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me about this new wine of yours. Would love to hear a lot more about it, about how you decided to start the project, why you decided to focus on these two specific native grapes, and what style of wine you were trying to achieve. And then I have all 4 wines here, so we can taste through them as well.
This project belonged to a Greek man, and he's a businessman, but he's in love for the wine for a long time. And he started the wine business in Santorini many years ago with a project very famous called CLOS. And step by step, Santorini became a kind of fashion for the ASSYRTIKO variety. And he decided to start another project on another island called T-Oinos. And it's totally different because the soil are very different. You know, in Santorini, there are some volcanic soil. It's black sand, and in T-Oinos, this is granitic. I don't know if you know that, but in the granitic soil, you have always some very clean wine, very crystalline wine, and he started a totally crazy project with something very, very revolutionary in terms of plantation, because it's 10,000 feet per hectare compared to Santorini where it's around 3,000, and it's in the middle of nowhere. It's in altitude. It's about 600 meters in terms of altitude, and it's a very special island with a lot of energy, with a lot of wind. This is the island of the wind, and of course, it's very difficult to produce wine. It's a challenge, and the project started maybe something like 12 or 15 years ago. At the beginning, he was working with some people from Burgundy, and a Greek for Burgundy for the white, and a Greek people for the red variety. And a very good friend of mine, Gérard Marjon. Gérard Marjon is the sommelier of Alain Ducasse group in France, and he asked me to visit the vineyard. I went for the first time in 2015, and I was not on the same page in terms of philosophy of production. And I wrote a report to explain what were my ideas. And for me, the place was so strange, so apart, that my philosophy was to make something very, very clean and very different in terms of winemaking. And I start my first vintage in 2017, and for the white varieties, I decided to stop the winemaking in oak, and we start with different vats. We have oak vats, but big one, and we use glasses like wine globe. It's kind of barrels, but in glass, to be sure to keep the purity of the variety. And another part in amphora. And I have made a big observation in the vineyard, and I have found a little part with a little bit of clay. It was very different in terms of quality of soil, and the taste of the grape was so different. I decided to create a new cuvée called Rare. That's why you have with the white variety the classic wine from CLOS STÉGASTA, and the cuvée Rare. It's only 2,500 bottles per year. because it comes from a very special place. And for the red variety, we have two places for the red. We have a place in the CLOS STÉGASTA with the granitic soil, and we have another place. It's 1.5 hectares with 27 different terraces, and the soil is totally made by clay and schist.
The Rassenas parcel or different?
Yeah, the Rassenas parcel. Yeah, the Rassenas parcel. And I decided to make a rare on this place. So for the red variety, the winemaking is very simple. The difficulty is to have some very good grape with a good ripeness, because of the problem of production, because of the wind, because of the lack of water, etc., etc.
Actually, had a question about the vineyards. They seem to be trellised, so I think it's gure, but not bush vine. Is that correct?
Sorry?
They're not bush vines. The vines are trellised, right?
Yeah, not really. It's not trellised. It's like in the Rhone Valley. It's on Échalas, and because of the wind, because we have to protect the fruit, and so the production is very tiny. It's very low production. So we have naturally a full concentration of the fruit of the. It's always some big wines, and the challenge is to keep the naturality, to try to avoid the bitterness, etc., and to keep a lot of purity.
What was the idea behind having such a high density planting?
The idea was first to have a very difficult production because of the concurrence of the roots, and so we have some very small grapes full of concentration naturally, and so it's a very late ripeness. We pick in October, so it's a little bit crazy in this part of Greece, and it's a very long and slow maturity, and with a lot of complexity. That's why we can have some fantastic aromas. We keep a lot of freshness. We have always a little bit lemon. We have something like ginger, and we don't have a lot of bitterness because the grapes the berries doesn't dry because of the size of the grapes. There are some very small grapes compared to the grapes you can find in Santorini, for example, and so it was for me the opportunity to have a different expression of the variety, and of course also with this kind of soil we can have some different form in the mouth with the wine. The white is a little bit like a red wine. It's powerful, and what I love in this island, because of the slow maturity, you can smell in the wine what you can find of the island. You know, you have you can smell a little bit the sea, you can smell a little bit the wind, because you have a lot of aromatic plants naturally, and for me, because I consult for a lot of projects, and for me, for a long time, it was a shock.
A shock to discover this land.
Discover this land and to taste this kind of wine, because it's something very different from what we can find in Greece in tasting ASSYRTIKO. Because in Greece you have ASSYRTIKO everywhere, mainly in the Cyclades, but you have also on the continent, and it's always some very interesting wine with a lot of ripeness and freshness, but it's always a little bit sunny, in this case, for me, it's not always very fresh, very clean, and that made the difference.
I tasted the wines this afternoon with James and don't get that sort of ripe fruit character. It's more like the minerality and a bit of spice, like a bit of lemongrass. Maybe it's like the reflection of the wild herbs in the area.
Yeah.
So I'm now on the ASSYRTIKO, the 2020, the normal one, CLOS.
So it comes from only granitic soils and without clay. It's very sandy. So you have a big concentration due to the concentration of the grapes, due to the number of due to the density, and I think it's something very close to what we can expect from this part in terms of expression of aromatic, because it's ripe. It's fantastic for the Mediterranean gastronomy. You have the rare with you, the second cuvée.
Yeah, I have this one. It's wonderfully fresh and very mineral, and that the saline undertone, but it's, again, as I said, it's not as ripe. I mean, it's ripe, but you don't get the really fleshy fruit. It's more like precise and focused, I think. And I have the rare. It's got a rounder, creamier texture, but you get some like a creamy, slightly honeyed, like dry, but like a honeyed character to it.
Yeah, it comes from the clay. You know, the clay in the wine, it's always the power and the sweetness, the roundness. It's always coming from the clay.
Are there plans to become biodynamic?
Yeah. Well, yeah, we use the biodynamic preparation for the soil, and we use a lot of homeopathic to spray on the leaves, because when we pick, the leaves are very tired because of the lack of water, because of the wind, and so we have to help a lot. It's incredible. I have a lot of passion because it's a little bit new. There is not a lot of producer using this kind of practice.
Okay, I now have the CLOS MAVROTRAGANO, the normal, the 2018.
Yeah, the normal come from two different blocks. The first one is the same than when we have the white variety. It's totally sand, so we can make some wines naturally powerful because of the concentration of the grape, because it's one more time a very big density, and the variety is MAVROTRAGANO. MAVROTRAGANO is not a very famous variety because it was used for the wine from every day. Nobody take care of this variety, and in terms of viticulture, it's very difficult to manage because it's difficult to produce and it's a little bit fragile. So in summer it's drying a little bit. That's why they prefer to make sugar wine with that. But it's a beautiful variety, and especially in this place because it's a cold place. And when you have a long possibility of time of ripeness, and you can keep the freshness one more time, you can make some beautiful wines.
I have the rare as well. Let's move on to that. It's also 2018. So is the winemaking the same as well? And just different?
The winemaking is the same. In fact, because of the natural concentration, the philosophy is very simple. it's made on the observation, because in terms of winemaking, you used to speak about number of poaching down, number of remontage or pumping over, etc., etc. We don't crush the grapes. So when the vat is full, it's beautiful. It's like a caviar box. No? We distemp and we put the berries in the vat without pumping, directly in the vats with an elevator. So we respect a lot the fruit, and the extraction is made by observation, because of course, as I told you at the beginning, it's like it's only blackberries, like a caviar box, and with the fermentation, you have it's a little bit like a cooking, you know. And we want to wait every day. We look in how many berries we have perfect and how many berries we have crushed naturally by the fermentation, and we decide the extraction like that. So it's a very low extraction. It's 2 or 3 poaching down during all the winemaking. It's close to an infusion, because we don't need to extract a lot. Everything comes naturally because of the ripeness and because of the beauty of the fruit.
And again, like the white, the rare for the red is a very different expression.
Yeah, totally different.
To me, not as aromatic, but more, you get this like black tea, more like slightly darker character.
Yeah, and some graphite aromas too. And the graphite come from the schist, I think. And sometimes I don't know today for you, but we have some like P1, you know, flowers with pepper, like P1 or something like that. And what I love is the saltiness we have in the finish.
So do you use amphora for the reds as well, or you stick to old oak?
No, for the red, we use, for the classic cuvée, we use oak, but big barrels. Big barrels, 500 liters, and with only 20% of new oak. And for the rare, we use the same for 1 year, and we finish for 1 year more in the wine globe, in the glass. In fact, as a winemaker, my first idea was to develop a kind of Japanese philosophy, you know, to avoid everything, to keep very close to the fruit, to be very pure. That was my idea. That's why I started with the glasses. And of course, at the beginning, it was a little bit difficult because it's something very new, and of course, the philosophy of aging is the oxygen. So how to make it without oxygen and without racking, because we don't rack. The wine stay on the lees for 1 year in the big barrels. Then we make a rack, a blend, and we finish in the glass for 1 year more. And we don't need any preparation. There is no fining. There is no filtration. It's totally natural. And of course, there is no consumption of SO2 in the glass, because there is no oxygen. So the level of SO2 is very low.
Anyway, thanks again. That was really, really interesting. I really enjoyed that, and the wines, they're beautiful, and I wish I could see how they age as well, maybe in a few years' time.
You will, because we keep a little bit wine in the cellar to see the evolution, but the evolution is very slow. I'm very confident about it. So for me, it's a great wine, and a great wine is always good for a long time. And I don't want to get older than I am, but I would love to see the wines in 10, 15 years to see the evolution, because it's so complex. I can't wait to see the nice evolution of the wine. But it's a new project. The first very The first vintage for me was 17. So we don't have a lot of recul.
Yes. Great. Thanks again. It was really wonderful to meet you and talk.
Thank you very much. And say hello to James and Mary for me.
I will, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Ciao.
Bye.